25. Limitation outside earned income and acceptance of gifts. Outside earned income to honorary. Except provided in paragraph D, with the member of the delegate, resident commissioner, officer of the employee with the House may not have outside earned income to trip of the calendar year exceeded 50% of the annual rate of base pay level 2 with the executive schedule under Section 5313 Title 5 United States Code, January 1st of calendar year, receiving the honorarium accepted with an official officer of the employment of the House is paid with a rate of less than 120% of the minimum rate of the basic pay of GS 15 general schedule may receive the honorarium unless subject matter is directly related to official duties of the individual. Payment may be because of the statute of the individual House. A person offering honorarium has interests that may be substantially affected with the performance of the non-performance official duties of the individual. In this case, the individual becomes a member of the delegate, resident commissioner, officer, employee of the House. Such individual may not have the outside earned income attributed to the portion of the calendar year that occurs. Such an individual becomes a member of the delegate, resident commissioner, of the officer of the employee exceed 15% of the annual rate basic pay of level 2 executive schedule under Section 5313 Title 5 United States Code, January 1st of the calendar year is multiplied fraction number of which for the number of the days individual member, delegate, resident commissioner, official officer employed during the calendar year, denominator which is 365. Payment in lieu of the honorarium of the made by the charitable organization on behalf of the member, the delegate, of the resident commissioner, officer of the employee of the House may not receive the member, resident commissioner, officer, or employee. Such a payment not exceeding $2,000 are made in a charitable organization from the member, the delegate, resident commissioner, officer, employee of the parent, sibling, spouse, child, dependent relative of the member, the delegate, with the resident commissioner, officer, and employee derived with the financial benefit. The member, or delegate, with the resident commissioner, and officer, the employee of the House may not receive compensation, affiliation, being employed with a firm, partnership, association, corporation, other entity that provides professional services involving fiduciary relations, except for the practice of medicine. Permit the name of such individual to be used in such firm, partnerships, association, corporation, other entity receive compensation, participation, profession involved with the fiduciary relationship, except for the practice of medicine, serve compensation as an officer for the member of the board of an association, corporation with the entity, receive the compensation, teaching with the other prior notification approval of the Committee on Ethics, copyright royalties. A member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer of the employee of the House may not receive the advance payment of copyright royalties. Paragraph does not prohibit the literary agent, research, or other individual employed by the House or the relative of the member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer, and employee working to be on behalf of the member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer, employee with respect for the publication receiving the advance payment of copyright with the royalty directly from the publisher solely for the benefit of literary agent, research, and other individual. Member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer, with employee with the House may not receive the copyright royalties under the contract entered onto the after July 1st, 1996, unless the contract is first approved by the committee of the ethics complying with the requirement of clause 4D1E. Royalties are received for the form and established publisher under usual and customary contractual terms. Definitions. In this rule, except for the providing subparagraph 2 of the officer or employee with the House, may be the individual other than the member, delegate, resident commissioner paid for the dispersed for the chief of the administrator office, who is paid with the rate of equal to with graded 100% minimum rate with a basic pay of GS 15 general schedule with his employee with more than 9 days of the calendar year. With respect to the honorarium with the term officer of the employee with the House, may be the individual other than the member, delegate, residential commissioner who have the salary disbursement chief administrator officer for the cause of 5 of this rule with the term officer of the employee have the same meaning as Rule 23. In this rule, honor means payment of money with a thing of the value with appearance, speech, article includes the series of the appearance and speech articles by a member, delegate, resident commissioners, officer, employee, honor of the House, excluding actual necessary travel expenses incurred by the member, delegate, resident, officer, official, or employee, or one relative to the extent of such expense with reimbursed with any other person with the amount otherwise determined shall be reduced the amount any of the such extent such expenses are not paid or reimbursed. In this rule, the term travel expense being with the respect of the member, delegate, resident commissioner for the officer, employee with the House, relative of the member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer, employee with the cost of transportation, cost of lodging, meals, and while the waive with the residence and principal place for the element employment such an individual. In rules outside earner income means with the respect of the member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer for the employee with the House, wage, salaries, fee for the other amounts received are to be received as compensation, personal services actually rendering, but it does not include with the commissioner, member, delegate, residential commissioner, officer, employee in compensation derived with the member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer, and employee with the House of personal services account rendered before the adoption of this rule or before such individual member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer, employee. Any amount paid or on behalf of the member, delegate, resident commissioner, officials, officer of the employee of the House, a tax qualified person, pension, profit sharing with a tax stock bonus plan, or received by such individual from such a plan. Case member, the delegate, resident, the commissioner of the officer, employee of the House engaged with a trade business in which for such individual of the family, such individual holds a controlling interest in which both personnel services, capital, or income-producing factors. Amounts were received with a member delegate, resident commissioner, officer for the employee, so long as the personal service actually rendered by such individual in the trade or business does not generate a significant amount of income. Copyright royalties received established by the publisher under usual customary contractual terms. Outside earned income should be determined without regard to the community property law. In the rule, charitable organization means organization described in Section 170C, Internal Revenue Code of 1986. Gives a member, delegate, resident of the commissioner, officer of the employee with the house may not only accept for the gift, except for the provided and call of the member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer of the employee with the house may not only accept for the gift of the registered lobby again, agent, foreign, principal, or from the private entity of the retains employee of the registered lobbies for the agent, foreign, principal, except for the provided in subparagraph 3 of the paragraph. B1. Member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer of the employee with the house may accept for the gift of the other cash and cash equivalent non-prohibited. A2. The member, delegate, resident, commissioner, official, employee, reasonable with a good faith, with a belief of the value of less than $50 of the cumulative value of the one source of that during a calculated calendar year less than 100. Gift that having a value less than $10 does not count toward the $100 annual limited value of perishable food sent with the office allocated among the individual recipients, not the member delegated to the resident commissioner of the formal record keeping not required by this subdivision by the member, delegate, resident commissioner, and officer employee with the house shall make with a good faith effort to comply with the subdivision. Gift and ticket with the supporting entertainment event should be the value of the face value of the ticket in case for the ticket without face value, the highest cost of the ticket with the face value of the event, and the price spent on the ticket. The event shall be deemed as face value with the own, if also for the price of which the issuer of the offer of the ticket sale for the sale of the public. In this case, term gift means a gratitude, favor, the discount with entertainment, hospitality, loan, forbearance. The other item having monetary value. The term includes gifts and services, training, transportation, lodging, meals, whether provided in kind or by purchase for the ticket, payment in advance, reimbursement after expense has been incurred, a gift benefit to a family member, to member, the delegate, resident, commissioner, officer, employee of the house, or gift to any other individual based on the individual relationship. Member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer, employee shall be concerned with the gift of the member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer, employee if it is given with the knowledge or acquaintance with the member, the delegate, resident, commissioner, officer of the employee of the member, the delegate, resident, commissioner, officer of the employee has reason to believe the gift was given because of the official position of such individual. And food refreshment provided at the same time with a place to bowl for the member, the delegate, with the resident commissioner, for the officer, for the employee, for the house, for the spouse, for the dependent, for the heir over the food refreshment provided with the member, the delegate, resident commissioner, officer, employee shall be treated as a gift for the purpose of the clause. Restrictions of paragraph 1 do not apply with the following. Anything with a member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer, for the employee, with the house paid for the market value that does not either promptly return for the donor. A contribution defined in section 301(8) Federal Election Campaign Act in 1971, lawfully made under the act of lawful contribution for the election, state, local government office that attends fundraising event and sponsored by a political organization described in Section 527E of the Internal Revenue Code in 1986 with a gift relative to described in Section 109(16) Title 1 Ethics of Government Act 1978. Anything provided with an individual basis of the personal friendship unless the member, the delegate, the resident commissioner, officer, the employee of the house has reason to believe under circumstances for the gift was provided for the official position of such an individual will not become for the personal friendship determining whether the gift is provided with a basic personal friendship with a member, the delegate, resident, commissioner, officer of the employee of the house shall be considered the circumstances with which the gift was offered, such as history or relationship of the individual giving the gift, including previous exchange of the gift between them, whether actual knowledge of such individual who gave the gift personally paid for the gift and saw it, tax reduction, deduction, business reimbursement from the gift, whether the actual knowledge of such individual who gave the gift gave the same and similar gifts to the other member, delegates, resident, commissioner, for the officers, employee of the house. The execution provided in paragraph A3, contribution or other payment to legal expense for the funded established benefit of the member, the delegate, resident, commissioner's officer, for the employee of the house, otherwise lawfully made in accordance with the restriction and disclosure requirements of the Committee on Ethics. A gift from another member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer, employee of the house for the tenant, food, refreshment, lodging, transportation, or other benefits resulting from outside business employment activity. The member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer for the employee of the house, other than outside activities, are not connected with the duties of such individual officer, holder of the house, spouse of such individual. Such benefits have not been offered or enhanced because of the official position such individual customarily provided to others. Similar circumstances customarily provided with the prospect of the employer connection with a bona fide employment, a discussion provided political political organization described in Section 527E of Internal Revenue Code 1986 in connection with a fundraising campaign event sponsored by the such organization. Pension or other benefits result of the continued participation in an employee welfare benefits plan maintained by the former employer. Informal informational materials that are sent by the office of the member, delegate, resident commissioner of the officer, employee of the House of the form of books and articles and periodicals of the other written materials, auto tapes, videotapes, and other forms of communication. Award prize for the given and for the competitive of the content of the events open to the public, including random drawings, honorary degrees, associated travel, food, refreshment, entertainment with the bona fide monetary, non-monetary awards presented with the recognition, public service, associated food, refreshment, entertainment provided with the presentation such of the degrees and awards, training including food, refreshment, furniture of all the attendees of an integral part of the training, and such training is in interest of the House bequeath, inheritance of the transfers of the death, item restriction, receipt for which authorized foreign gifts and declarations act and mutual education cultural exchange act and any other statute, anything that is paid by the federal government, state by the local government, or secured by the government under the government contract, a gift of personal hospitality defined in Section 109.14 after the government act, individual other than registered lobbyist again or agent of foreign principal, a free attendance of the event and permitted within under paragraph 7.4. So paragraph 4, opportunities, benefits that are available to the public or to a class consisting of all federal employees, whether they're not restricted based on the geographical consideration over the members of the group of the class, whether which membership is unrelated with the congressional employment, and offer of the member of organizations such as the Employees Association, Congressional Credit Union, which membership is related with the congressional employment, and similar opportunities available to a large segment of the public through the organization similar size, offered to a group of class that is not defined by the banner specifically discriminating among government employees any of the basis of the branch, government, or type of responsibility, or on the basis of the favors of those higher rank of the rate of the pay. In the form of loans for the banks or the other financial institutions, the terms are generally available to the public in the form of the reduced membership of the other fee for the participation in organization activities offered to all of the government employed with the professional organizations, if only with the restriction of the membership related with the professional qualifications. A plaque, trophy, other item that is substantial commemorative in nature that is intended for the presentation. T. Anything which is unusual cause for the waiver granted with the Committee of the Ethics. U. For the food, refreshment, the nominal value offered other than the part of the meal. Donation product for the district, state of the member, delegate, the resident commissioner for the representative, intended primarily promotional purposes of the display with free distribution in an area of minimal value. Any single recipient item with a nominal value, such as the greeting card, baseball cap, or T-shirt, member, delegated, resident commissioner, officer, employee, house may accept the officer with a free attendance for the widely attended with the convention, with the conference, the synopsism, forum, panel discussion, dinner, viewing, reception, similar event provided with the sponsor event. Member, the delegate, resident commissioner, officer of the employee with the House for the participates in event, and speaker for the panel participant with the president, information related with the Congress matters before Congress or by performing ceremonial functions appropriate to the official position, such as individual attendance of the event and appropriate to perform the official duty of the representative function of member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer, employee of the House. Alright, B. A member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer, employee of the House who attended for the event and described in subdivision A with except for the sponsor for the unsolicited with the offer of the free attendance for the event with accompanying individual, or the member, delegate, with the resident commissioner, officer for the employee of the House, sponsor for the event with their made except for the sponsor, unsolicited officer for the free attendance for the charity event, except for the reimbursement for the transportation logic may not be accepted in connection with the event unless all the proceedings of the event with the benefit of the organization described in Section 501C, the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, sent from the taxation under 501A, such code of the reimbursement for the transportation logic connection with the event with the paid such organization. And 3, the offer of the free attendance of the event is made with such organization. In the paragraph of the term free attendance may include the waiver all of the part of the conflict of the other fee with the provision local transportation, version of food, reinforcement, refreshment, entertainment, instructional materials furnished of all the attendees integral part of the event. Terms does not include the entertainment collateral event that does not include food or refreshment taken other than the group setting with all substantial all other attendees. A member, delegate, resident commissioner, employee with the House may not accept the gift value of which exceeds $250 on the basis of personal friendship exemption, subparagraph 3D, upon list the committee on such the ethics written determination such the exemption apply with the determination of the subparagraph that not require for the gifts given and with the basic family relationship exemption, subparagraph 3C. When not practical, the return of the tangible items because of the perishable, the item may be of the discretion of the recipient to give it an appropriate charity to destroy it. B1A reimbursement included a payment in kind with a member to designate with the residential commissioner officer of the employee with the house for the necessary transportation, lodging, related expense with the travel, meeting, speaking, engagement, fact-finding, trip of similar event with a connection with the duties such an individual officer holder shall consider with the reimbursement of the house, but not as a gift of prohibition prohibited by with the clause of the form of the private source other than the registered lobbyist agent of the foreign principal of the private entity with it pertains retains employee, registered lobbyist, and agents of the foreign principal except for the provided in subparagraph C, subdivision C, member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer, and employee. In the case of the employee receiving the advance authorization, member, delegate, resident, commissioner, and officer under who direct supervision employee works with the acceptance reimbursement because expense for the reimbursement reimburse the authorization clerk within 15 days of the travel completed. Purpose of subdivision A with events of the activity of substantial recreational nature not considered in connection with the duties of member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer, employee with the house or the office holder. Reimbursement include payment of the kind member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer with the employee with the house for any of the purposes described in subdivision A shall be considered reimbursement, however, not a gift prohibited by a clause without regard with whether the source retains employee with registered lobbyist agency of foreign principal if it's under regulation prescribed by the Committee on Ethics implement with the provisions directly with the institution of higher education meaning in Section 101 Higher Education Act 1965. Provide only attendance of the participation in a one-day event exclusive of travel time overnight stay. Regulation prescribed that implement the provisions may permit two-night stay will be determined with the committee on a case-to-case basis. To be practical, required to participate in one-day event. Each advance authorization except the reimbursement be signed, including election form, member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer, house, whose direction, supervision, employee works, and shall include the name of the person who will make for the reimbursement, time and place, purpose of the travel, termination of the travel, the connection with the duties employed with the officer holder. It would not create with the appearance of the employee using public office for the private gain. Each disclosure made in subparagraph 1A shall be signed, include electronic form, member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer of the in this case for the travel of member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer of the member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer under relation to the direct supervision employee works. This case for the travel by an employee shall include with a good faith estimate of the total transportation expense reimbursed or being reimbursed. Good faith estimate total lodging expense for the reimbursed to be reimbursed. Good faith estimate total meal expense for the reimbursed to be reimbursed. Good faith expense estimate of the total other expense for the reimbursed to be reimbursed. E. Determination of all such expense for the necessary transportation and lodging related to the expense for the defined subparagraph 4 of the description of meeting events for the attendant of the end. In the case for the reimbursement to cover the member, delegate, resident, commissioner of the office of determination travel was in connection with such individual office holder would not create by the appearance of the member, delegate, resident, commissioner of the officer in using public office for the private gain. In paragraph of the term, the necessary for the transportation and lodging related expense, the reasonable expense of the necessary for the period of the not exceeding 4 days of the United States, 7 days exclusive travel time outside of the United States unless approved of in advance for the Committee on Ethics, and limitation reasonable expense for the transportation, lodging, conference fees, materials, food, refreshments, including reimbursement of the necessary transportation, whether or not such transportation occurs within the period described in subdivision A. C. Does not include the expenditure for the recreational activity, does not include the entertainment other than that provided to all of the attendees integral part of the event, except for the activities and entertainment otherwise permissible under the clause, may include travel expenses incurred with behalf of the relative of the member, the delegate, with the resident, commissioner, officer, and employee with the clerk of the house shall make all of the advance authorization, certification, and closure file pursuant to the paragraph available for the public inspection as soon as possible after they have received. Except for the provided in subdivision B, member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer, of the employee with the house may not accept the reimbursement include payment in kind for the transportation, lodging, related expense, and trip of the traveler of the company with any segment of registered lobbyist agent of the foreign principal. Subdivision A does not apply with the trip of the reimbursement institution higher education with the meaning of the Act 101 Higher Education Act 1965. Member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer, employee with the house may not accept the reimbursement include payment in kind for the transportation, lodging, and related expense under the exemption of the paragraph B1C2 with the include of the trip that is financed and wholly in part by a private entity that retains employment with the registered lobbyist agent of the foreign principals unless involved with the registered lobbyist agent of the foreign principal planning organization requests arrangement of the trip of the dominious under the rules prescribed. Committee on Ethics implement paragraph B1C of this clause. A member, delegate, resident, commissioner, officer, employee with the house may not accept the reimbursement include payment in kind for the transportation, lodging, related expense for the trip other than the trip permitted within paragraph B1C with this clause. Except for the trips or any part of the plan or organized requested for the range of the registered lobbyist or agent of the foreign principal, member of the resident, commissioner, officer, employee with the house shall be accepting travel otherwise permissible under paragraph B1 of the clause for any of the private source. Provided the Committee on Ethics before such trip with a written certification signed including electronic format by source of an English case a corporate person by an officer of source of that sort for the trip will not be financed any part of the registered lobbyist agent, foreign principal, the source either Does not retain employee registered lobbyist agent form principal of the institution of higher education meaning of Section 101 Higher Education Act 1965. Certify the trip meet for the requirements specified by the rules prescribed by the Committee of the Ethics. Implement paragraph B1C2 of the Code of the specifically details extent of the involvement of the registered lobbyist agent form principal of the planning of the organization request for the arrangement of the trip that considerably qualified as convenience under such rules, source of which will not accept another source of any of the funds earmarked for the directly or the indirectly purpose of financing aspect of the trip of the traveler may not be accompanied with a segment of the trip of the registered lobbyist agent of the form principal except for the case for the trip of which the source and reimbursement of the institution of higher education meaning Section 101 Higher Education Act 1965. Except that it is permitted in paragraph B1C with the call of the trip will not be any part planned, organized, requested, arranged, or registered lobbyist or agent of foreign principal, and after the Committee on Ethics propagated the regulation mandated with the paragraph 1b with the obtainment of the prior approval of the committee, and so each trip, each gift prohibited, paragraph A1 includes the following: anything prohibited, registered lobbyist agent form principal to an Indy with a maintained by a controlled member, delegate, resident commissioner, or employee of the House, charitable contributions defined in Section 170C, Internal Revenue Code in 1986, made with the registered lobbyist agent form principal the basis of the designation, recommendation of the specification member, the delegate, resident commissioner, officer, employee of the House, not including mass mailing, other solicitation directly broad category of a person and either the other than charitable contribution permitted in paragraph F. Contribution of other payment of registered lobbyist agent of the foreign principal to legal expenses from the established benefit of the member, delegate, resident commissioner, officers, employee with the House. Financial contribution expenditure is made with the registered lobbyist agent of the foreign principal relating to the conference of the retreat with a similar event sponsored with affiliation with official congressional organization. On the behalf of the member, the delegate, resident commissioner, and officer of the employees of the House, the charitable contribution defined 170 of the Internal Revenue Code made registered lobbyist agent form principal, lieu of honorarium member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer of the employee House if it does not consider the gifts under this clause reported with the provided in subparagraph 2. Artie Millett, member, delegate, resident commissioner, officer of the employee with the designated with a recommendation, contributed charitable organization leave with the honor room to describe in this paragraph 1 shall report within 30 days after the designation recommendation with the clerk, name and address registered lobbyist made with the contribution leave with the honor room, date of none with the contribution, name and address of the charitable organization designated recommended with the member, delegate, resident commissioner. Clerk shall make all the public information received with the owner of the subparagraphs as soon as possible after it is received in the clause. The term registered lobbyist means with the lobbyist registered on the Federal Regulation Lobbying Act successor statute. The term agent, foreign principal, and agent, foreign principal regulation under the Foreign Agent Registration Act. Terms officer, employee have the same meaning as Rule 23 of the provisions clause shall be interpreted and enforced solely with the Committee on Ethics. Committee on Ethics authorized to issue content matter contained in this clause no later than 45 days of the day of the adoption of the paragraph of the annual individuals thereof. The Committee on Ethics shall develop and revise necessary guidelines judging and responsibility of the expenditure purpose of the clause, including factors tending to the established connection between trip and official duty, the reasonableness amount spent on the sponsor, relationship between an event and an official connected purpose, the direct and immediate relation between the source of funding of an event, and regulation describing the information required individual subject to this clause. To submit with the committee in order to obtain prior approval of the committee for any of the travel coverage of the clause, including any required certification developed and rising guidelines. So paragraph 1A of the committee shall take into account of the maximum per diem rate for the official government travel to publish annually by the General Service Administration with the Department of State with the Department of Defense. Claims against the government. A person may not be an officer or employee of the House, continue with employment acting as an agent of the prosecution and claimant against the government interest in such claimant except for the original claimant and proper discharge of the official duties. A member, delegate, resident commissioner shall prohibit the staff of the employee with a member, delegate, resident commissioner, including staff and personal committee with the leadership office, from making a lobbying contact as defined in Section 3 Lobbying Disclosure Act of 1995. Individual spouse, if the spouse of the lobbyist under the Lobbying Disclosure Act of 1995 is employed or retained by such a lobbyist for the purpose of influencing legislation, defining the date for the national political party which the member include with the delegate, resident commissioner, the whole of the convention, the nominee with the candidate, with the official, with the vice president, vice president, member may not participate in an event honoring the member other than the capacity of the candidate for such office and such event directly paid for by the registered lobbyist under the Lobbying Disclosure Act of 1995, private entity that retains the employee such registered lobbyist. Rule 26, financial disclosure.